Welcome to Trichy Truths, the podcast where we deep dive into the real underlying causes of trichotillomania. I'm Laura, a clinical nutritionist and founder of Trichy Nutrition, and I'm here to help you uncover the hidden connections between your body, mind, and the hair pulling cycle. In each episode, we're going to explore the root causes for your hair pulling behaviours, from nutrient deficiencies and gut health imbalances to stress, hormones, and a lot more, because trich is never just a habit, there's always a bigger story behind it. If you're ready for insights, strategies, and support that go beyond surface level solutions, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at vitamin D, and specifically vitamin D deficiency and how that is affecting hair pulling urges. Now you've probably heard of vitamin D and how important it is for bone health and probably your immune system, but what we don't talk about is how it can affect our brain function, mood regulation, and ultimately our trichotillomania symptoms, so the hair pulling. It is a really big one. I see vitamin D deficiency, I would say, in 99.9% of my trich clients. So far, while recording this podcast, I've seen over 300 blood tests of trich clients, and I have to say I've only ever seen 3 people. So it was 2, and then only recently I saw a third, but that was only after we'd been supplementing. So they were also deficient when they first started the program with me. So I've only ever seen 3 blood tests out of all of my trich clients that have had optimal vitamin D levels, and we're going to be talking about what's optimal further into this podcast. So let's get started and let's talk about why vitamin D matters in trich. Vitamin D isn't just a vitamin, it's actually a hormone. So it's important to know that distinction. It does play a critical role in regulating serotonin, calming our nervous system, supporting our stress resilience, even reducing inflammation, and it can also help modulate dopamine pathways. So all of these neurotransmitters that I'm talking about, so your serotonin, your dopamine, and then looking at different stress hormones like cortisol, they're the exact systems that are becoming dysregulated when it comes to trichotillomania. So when vitamin D is actually low in the body, when we have a deficiency, and as I've already mentioned, it's 99% of you or more, it means that you've got a harder time with coping with stress. So I always talk about stress resilience. It helps with stabilizing mood. So you're going to have a harder time stabilizing that mood. So you're going to have big ups and big downs. It can help. I'm going to make another point now is about trich clients that I see with vitamin D deficiency. I get a lot of people come to me and go, well, my doctor said it's fine. So, or the doctor might say it's slightly low, but just get some more sun. So what I wanted to talk about was the reference ranges that the doctors use is different to what is optimal. So what the doctors are looking for, what is above their reference. So what's in their reference range, and what's in their reference range is basically, when we look at it, we're looking at absence of disease. So for instance, in Australia, we look at nanomoles per litre, okay? So, and when we're looking at that, we're looking at, it used to be 50, it's actually now 60. So it has changed in the last couple of years. But what they're looking at is if it is below that 60 nanomoles per litre, what happens is they're at higher risk of disease. So they're just looking at that risk of disease. So they're at higher risk of different bone diseases or of depressions or of anxiety. So there's a lot of studies out there about how vitamin D deficiency works with that. But that's what they're looking at. And the ranges, those reference ranges are based on your population. So in the US, it'll be different to, they also have a different unit of measure. So they're looking at nanograms. But what we're looking at here is each lab uses the healthy population. They're looking at the population and what stage needs to be before we get to that risk of disease. So that's all they're looking at. They're not looking at what is going to be optimal for this person sitting in front of me. And I know, for instance, in Australia, I would like it above 100, or even better, above 120. So between 120 and to 200 is good in Australia. But they're going to look at it, and even if they see 50, they're going to go, oh, it's slightly low, but you're okay. Or if it's 62, they're going to say, that's okay. Whereas I'm going to go, we need to double that. And when we lift that up, you are going to feel 1,000 times better. Your urges to pull are going to go down. Your mood is going to be better. You are going to feel so much better. Now, I've talked about what I like it to be when it's nanomoles per litre, which is what we use in Australia, and there'll be other countries that use nanomoles per litre as well. But if you are in the US and you're currently looking at your blood test results for vitamin D, you'll probably see on there that it's ng per milliliter. So that's the nanograms per milliliter. And mostly if it's over 30, they are going to say that you are good. Okay. Now I like it between probably say 50 to 80. I would say I'd probably prefer it over the 60 mark. Okay. So for you to end up feeling good, you know, your nervous system's in check, hair pulling is lowered, you will probably notice a difference in your mood if you can lift that. So if you're looking at your blood test now, your doctor has told you that you're fine because it's come back at 35 or 40, that is not the case. And I do urge you, especially if you are going into winter, to look at getting some vitamin D supplementation, and we will start talking about that as well. So anything, probably I would say 60 to 80 in the US in the nanograms per milliliter, and in Australia I definitely like it over the 100 mark with the nanomoles per litre. So before we go into the how we're going to supplement with it, I just want to go into and talk about why so many people may be deficient in vitamin T. Like, why are we looking at these big deficiencies? Like, why is 99% of my Trich clients coming in? And I would as a guess, you know, for, you know, even the Australian population, I know some of my US clients are just gone, what? They're deficient in Australia. Like, everyone sees it as the sunshine country, right? But it's not the case. We're just not, our lifestyles do not lend to it. So when we're looking, I know in the media, you'll often hear about high cholesterol and how that affects our health, but I actually see a picture of low cholesterol in a lot of my Trich clients. So definitely looking, and we need that cholesterol for the synthesis of vitamin D from the sun. So if we're not getting enough of those healthy fats and we have low cholesterol markers, we may not be able to synthesize that vitamin D. So that's going to keep us deficient as well. If we've got inflammation in the body, if we've got gut issues, if we've got poor liver function, these are all things that can affect how vitamin D is activated. Even going further into it, I also look at, you know, gut infections, which I know I talk about a lot on my Trichy Nutrition page, candida overgrowth, heavy metals, chronic stress. All of these things combined are, you know, keeping us in this state of vitamin D deficiency. So the body is overwhelmed. It can't metabolize and synthesize it properly. So we end up with this low vitamin D picture. Now, I know I've already mentioned a few of the symptoms that you may experience when you are low in vitamin D, but I just want to go a little bit further into some other things that you may be experiencing that may indicate that your vitamin D is low, okay? So definitely if you are someone who goes through seasonal relapses with hair pulling, so if you notice that in winter your hair pulling is worse, I would definitely be looking at vitamin D deficiency. Again, if seasonally, so seasonal depression and low moods during that winter time could also be an indication. I also look at if someone is getting sick all the time, or they take a while to get over an illness. So they may have that poor immune response. So poor immunity, vitamin D is super, super important for our immune system. You might also look at fatigue, muscle weakness, brain fog, irritability. You may be sleep disturbances. So poor sleep is another indication. Sugar cravings can be another one. Anxiety. So you've only got to do a quick search on Google and you'll see there's so many studies with anxiety and low vitamin D, and the same with depression. But it also comes down to just not feeling yourself. Like, I would definitely investigate and look into what's happening for you when it comes to your vitamin D status. So let's talk about how we're going to supplement with vitamin D to make sure that we're keeping our vitamin D levels adequate. So if you go into the shop and you notice vitamin D supplements, you'll see that you can look at vitamin D3 and vitamin D2. So vitamin D3 is better. So that is what we naturally synthesize in the skin from sunlight, and it's also found in animal products, while D2 actually comes from plant-based sources such as like mushrooms, and if you see it fortified in food. So we're definitely going to be raising and maintaining those blood levels of vitamin D a lot better with that vitamin D3. So I would definitely be looking for a vitamin D3 supplement. Now, the other thing that you might want to consider is a lot of people, you can see it in capsules or tablets, or you can also see it in sprays or drops. So a lot of people ask me what's the difference. So one thing is if there's a lot of gut issues or you feel like you might not be absorbing things properly, sometimes it can be better if we get the spray or the drops that go directly into the oral mucosal, so the inside of your cheeks or under your tongue. So if you've got issues digesting in the gut, you can definitely digest it better. And I've seen vitamin D levels lift a lot quicker by using a spray or drops directly into the mouth. So that might be something that you want to consider. And when it comes to how much to supplement, because I know people are going to ask me, I would definitely be looking. Honestly, it's really hard because, number one, I don't know what your vitamin D levels are. I don't know how your liver's working. I don't know how your gut's working. I don't know if you're in winter or summer. I don't know. There's so many things that I don't know about, to be able to tell you what. So I'm just going to give a general guideline. So if someone is really deficient, like, I would probably go as high as 5,000 international units. So you'll see 5,000 IU written on somewhere. So you could definitely do that daily if you're in the middle of winter and your vitamin D levels are very low, okay? But I wouldn't look at doing that higher dose for the whole of winter. I would probably look at a maintenance dose would be that 2,000 international units a day. So, but like I said, if we're only taking 1,000 to 2,000 IU, and a lot of the supplements out there are only 1,000 IU per tablet or per spray, it's sometimes just really not enough to lift those levels. So you've got to go on how you're feeling as well, and definitely looking at the data. If you do have blood test results, I definitely recommend getting a blood test as well. Now, the other thing that we want to look at is not just what we're supplementing with, but there's other things that we can do to help that absorption of the vitamin D. So healthy fats is one, so that can help. So if we're going to be taking the vitamin D supplementation, I would definitely take it with a healthy fat meal. So if you're having some avocado, something like that, it's good to do it then. We definitely also want to look at your magnesium levels. So, and I'm definitely going to do a podcast coming up on magnesium as well, but good magnesium levels can actually help the vitamin D be activated. So we need magnesium to activate the vitamin D. We also want to look at liver detox pathway, so making sure the liver is working properly as well. And we also want to look at those underlying infections, and this I can't stress enough is because I see it in pretty much all of my Trich clients that I see in clinical practice is that there are underlying infections and underlying reasons for these deficiencies. So it's not just about looking at a blood test and going, all right, we need some B12, we need some folate, we need, vitamin D. We've got to work out why. So I'm always asking, well, why are we low in that? And what's the reason? And so we're looking and we're putting it all together and looking at as a whole picture, not just we've got this deficiency, let's take this supplement and that'll help me. It's not just about that. So vitamin D is definitely, I hope you've gotten from this podcast, you can tell, from what I've told you today is how vital it is in this trichotillomania puzzle. So I always talk about it being a puzzle and putting all these pieces together and working out all of these deficiencies and imbalances and how it's working towards these symptoms, and not just looking at hair pulling symptoms. As we've mentioned today, we're looking at sugar cravings, we're looking at irritability, we're looking at mood, we're looking at anxiety, and it's putting all of those pieces together for your own Trich recovery. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Trichy Truths. I hope it gave you some clarity and a deeper understanding of the root causes behind trichotillomania. If you'd like to keep learning, you can find me on all of your favourite social media places: Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Here I share tips, client wins, and resources every week. For video content and deeper dives, head over to my Trichy Nutrition YouTube channel. And if you're ready for more personalised support, you can book in for one-on-one sessions or a treatment package with me. Here we will work together to uncover your root causes and build a plan tailored just for you. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and I'll see you next time.